Okay, we are officially live. Welcome everyone to Warrior Women in Business, episode 73. I am so excited about today. Today's guest is, and what she does for a living is something that I've been supporting for years, and I'm really just so excited to have Saloni Sethi on today. But for those of you that don't know me and know about Warrior Women in Business, I want to give a little bit of a preface for those of you that are joining for the first time. And for those of you that have joined before or are Warrior Women in Business official members, thank you so much for being a part of Warrior Women in Business. Warrior Women in Business is a very much a mission-driven women's media and marketing organization that is actually born out of my other company, which is JS Media. JS Media has been providing executive branding and digital marketing training and education to executives for many years. And back in, I think it was like 2016, I was speaking to an all-women's group, all female executives, and I just saw such resonance and interest in what I was talking about. And I thought, you know what, we need to do something to really support women. So I started the podcast actually just as like a little idea, and it's grown into a full organization where we primarily support female executives, female entrepreneurs, and women in the arts. Those are my favorite people. And we do that through our programs, through educational programs online, classes, and most importantly, events with partners that really help us to deliver our mission, which is economic development of women in business and also supporting the causes that they care about. So me personally, I think my biggest cause that I care about is ending gender-based violence. Warrior Women in Business has been a partner of the mayor's office in multiple ways, actually, New York City mayor's office, through both the mayor's office NYCGBV, which Saloni Sethi is now the commissioner, and also through Maiden, the New York City mayor's office for media and entertainment. If any of you joined us for our Battle of the Bands, I think it was 2 years ago. We do a lot here in New York City. There's a lot to do, and I can't do it alone. Warrior Women in Business cannot do it alone. So we look to partner with other women's organizations that feel similarly and we can complement each other. So, and my name is Jasmine Sandler, if I didn't mention it. To bring on our guest today, so I want to give a little bit of a background on how I reached out to Saloni and what we're doing with Warrior Women in Business. So this year, every year we do something to support this office. This year, something that we've been thinking about, well, it's been on my mind since honestly 2019, is to launch a fashion brand. I love fashion. And I had this vision for a fashion brand that's very resilient yet elegant and really supports, like, if you're a woman in New York, you understand. You have to look good, you got to change at all times, or if you're gender neutral, you always have to like have your outfits ready to go, and and it's your style and it reflects who you are and what you do. So we've partnered with a top fashion designer out of Dallas, Sarah Jones Thomas, and we are unveiling a Warrior Women Couture fashion brand with our partner EPN Fashion Week that hosts fashion events every year on Wall Street. And we're doing it as part of New York Fashion Week, and we're doing it on Valentine's Day specifically because we want to do something about self-love, and we want to do something that really helps people love themselves, because it's Valentine's Day and the holidays can be hard for people that don't have families, or they have dysfunctional families, or they have problems. And we're like, you know what? No, we're going to bring people together in a very positive, enlightening environment. And we're going to share what Saloni's office does and help people understand all the resources that the mayor's office actually has that maybe people are too afraid to reach out, or they're not taking enough advantage of these awesome resources. So all that being said, I want to introduce Saloni. So first of all, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
You're welcome. Okay, so I'm going to jump in. I'm just going to give a little bit of background about Saloni. So Saloni is the commissioner of the mayor's office of End Gender-Based Violence. Today we're going to talk about NYCGBV. We're also going to talk about RAP and ERAP, right? Mm-hmm. That support ending teen violence. And I got to tell you, Saloni, I don't know about you, but for me, when I feel like I'm some weird superhero. When I see violence happening, I want to jump in and just stop it. And I see the teen violence, when you watch the news, my gosh, it's like horrible. You see what's on the rise. It's hard. It's frightening, honestly.
Yeah, and I think, it's like that's the impulse is to stop it in the moment. But I think so much of the work in our RAP program, ERAP program, and so much of our work is really about understanding the root causes behind that violence, right? Because it's not often just a one-off, right? Even though it might
No,
be like that. And that one-off response is not always, it's helpful in the moment, but maybe not helpful in the long term, right? And so
you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. So it is about what comes way before that, right? And creates these cycles, which
yeah.
we talk about quite a bit. So let me just finish this piece. So NGB, where she leads the office, Saloni leads the office's work to support survivors and shift social norms around gender violence through prevention, education, which I love, what you just mentioned, as well as direct support for those impacted by violence. And obviously, we want to understand how that works a little bit. And accountability programs, I love this.
Yep.
That are aimed at changing abusive behavior. I mean, I think that is so critical. And then you're focused on racial equity, which is very, very important, and ensuring that diverse groups of survivors have multiple pathways to helping both within and outside of systems. And I can imagine that your job, you're touching upon a lot of different systems, I'm assuming communities and programs, right?
Yes, no, exactly. And so, I mean, I can talk a little bit about the office and its work, especially in a place like New York City, which is, the most diverse place on earth, right? I think we always think of our role as really how do we create as many options to reach as many survivors with different experiences as possible, right? Because we understand that there's not one experience of domestic violence or sexual violence or trafficking or any other form of gender violence, right? And our services aim to kind of holistically serve all of the above. And so we're always thinking about how we can do more and create more options. And the office actually has been around, again, since 2001. It was established by a voter mandate. So I think that's also really important that voters asked for this. And it was established as the Office to Combat Domestic Violence. And when we talk about domestic violence, we're really talking about two forms of violence, like intimate partner violence that happens in relationships, and then family violence, which is any kind of violence that happens in the family. It could be like mother-in-law, it could be siblings, it could be, uncle, cousin, any of that. And then that office, we existed in that form till about 2018, and then we expanded to become the mayor's office to end gender-based violence, or ENDGBV, really based in the recognition that we're serving people that have often had multiple experiences of violence, right? That's sort of how violence and trauma works, is that one experience of trauma often, leaves you vulnerable to multiple experiences of trauma, and people don't just experience it in isolation, right?
Yeah.
And so that was sort of what was behind our expansion, to really think about how do we serve the whole person, whether we're talking right now about their current experience of intimate partner violence, or maybe something in their past that was sexual violence in their childhood or as a teen. And so how do we look at that holistically and really serve the person and not just the issue? And you're totally right. We do that all, through kind of a host of programs that focus on services sort of post an incident happening, right? The interventive services, so things like counseling, case management, support with navigating family court, immigration legal services, advocacy, criminal justice systems, all of that. We do, a lot of prevention work, primarily through our RAP, which stands for the Relationship Abuse Prevention Program. It's an acronym, but that's what it stands for. That is in middle schools and high schools. We can talk about it a little bit more. We do a lot of community engagement and outreach and just general public awareness, because we're still, in a place where the issue is misunderstood in so many ways. And so much of our work is even working with other city agencies, with nonprofits, with anybody. Survivors touch all systems, sort of, as you said, right? And so how do we get these systems to understand survivorship, identify survivors, connect them, and make sure they're getting the supports they need? So we do a lot of training work and policy work that kind of supports that. And as you mentioned, some of our newest programming is really around this: how do we work with people who cause harm? Because I think one of the light bulbs that went off, right, when we stopped being the Office to Combat Domestic Violence, and weren't just fighting a thing, and started to think about ending gender-based violence, is you realize you're never going to end it unless you start addressing the person who's causing the harm, right? And
absolutely.
That's the person.
It can't be right. It can't just be the survivors. I mean, it's critically important that you're supporting them, but I think the other piece, and it seems like it would be more difficult.
Yeah, no, and that work is really informed by something we heard from survivors all the time, right? It's like survivors, even if they're out of a situation, they're like, I don't want them to go on to do it to somebody else, and they probably will, or and the programs that our office does are non-mandated, so they're outside of a criminal legal process. And that was another piece where a lot of survivors, don't want to call 911 because they're concerned. What if their partner gets arrested? And, yes, that partner is a harm doer, and yes, that partner is abusive, but that partner may also be the father of your children. That partner may also be contributing to the home financially or supporting you in some other ways. And there's also love and feeling there, right? It all kind of exists
Right,
together.
of course.
And so I think, that work, I'm really, really excited about that work and kind of seeing how it grows. It's, our programs didn't launch till 2022. And so it's definitely newer.
Yeah.
And kind of it's creating a whole new field where it's like saying, okay, it's okay to come in and ask for help, even if you've been somebody who's harming somebody else, because maybe there are tools we can give you to
Absolutely.
recognize
I love this. That's great. And how are you driving the awareness around that specifically?
So we contract with community-based organizations to do this work, and so we have 3 orgs that are providing services, and they do a lot of in-person outreach and engagement, because a lot of this is really getting folks to understand what we're trying to do. We of course through our social media and our website, we have a one-pager. There's actually, you can go to nyc.gov/respect. We got an easy short link to learn about that.
We'll put that in the show notes. I love that.
Yeah, because
#respect. I love it.
And we have 2 programs. One is for adults, which is called Respect and Responsibility, and the other one's for young people, which is called Respect First, right? And that program launched in January, and it's for young people ages 13 to 21 that have been harmful either in a dating relationship or in a family relationship, which is often when it first shows up, right? And
Right, of course.
so I think we're really excited to see where that work goes and how that. In my framing, I kind of consider that broadly as part of our prevention work, right? It's not like the primary prevention, but it's preventing future violence, hopefully.
Well, absolutely. And that's honestly the first I've heard of it. I think our last event with your office was Cecile Noel.
Yes.
Your former, she's lovely.
Yes, she's lovely.
Yeah, that was, I want to say it was in 2021. So
yeah.
I didn't know about this program. I love this program.
Yeah.
So it's great. So can you talk a little bit about how you got in, why, and we were talking about this pre-show, why and how you took on this leadership role and what your goals are, your personal goals.
Yeah, no, it's so interesting. I mean, it's funny because I was looking at the questions ahead of time, and I always think, how did I end up at NGBV? And I came to this work, the social service work, sort of mid-career. It's not where I started my career. I started my career in the private sector. But really, at some point in my early 30s, was looking for meaning. I was like, I have to work for another 40 years. What am I going to do that's meaningful? And was really this idea of how do I help people affect change, do something immediate that's actually helpful to somebody, was really important. And domestic violence was the issue I wanted to work on because I grew up in it, right? And so I grew up in a home where there was domestic violence. And so know that sort of, from the inside and out.
Yeah.
And so that was just something I knew that I wanted to do and came up. I started at a nonprofit doing direct services and counseling and sort of economic empowerment services, which I think I've heard, your themes around, I think that's
definitely is
such a key piece to all of it. I always say, I'm yes, domestic violence, gender-based violence affects everybody, but depending on where you are economically, the impacts are vastly different, right? They're vastly different.
Oh my gosh.
If it happened to me, if I was in an abusive relationship, I'd have a place to stay because
you're not going to be on the street.
Right? Right.
No,
so
but it's an excellent point, because I think a lot of relationships stay together because they don't have
because of that, right? And so
it's really an excellent point.
It's really important. They really go together. And so I started there, and then end up with the city, and I've been with the city. It'll be 9 years this February. Mostly at NGBV. Yeah, thanks. And so, and it's funny because I always say, and I say this to my office all the time, it's not that I just wanted any leadership role. I wanted this leadership role in particular. I mean, I think 2 things. First, I think Cecile was a lovely, amazing mentor and kind of encouraged me into it. But I think, the other part is just knowing the office. I've had so many different roles in the office, and I tell the team this all the time. I'm the main reason I wanted this role is because me as a person, I see how amazing all the folks are that are doing this work in the office, and I really want to challenge myself to create a work environment that sustains that amazing work and sustains those amazing human beings, because I think that's what's always missing in the world of work, right? It's work is about the worker as much as it is.
Oh my God, it's 100% about. Without the worker, there's no work.
Yeah, and so I think that's
Yeah,
what
no, it's true with any organization, for profit, nonprofit, of course.
yeah, and like really transparently, like when I was in not in levels of leadership, I was the one that was like, that's the wrong way to do this. You should be doing it that way, And so I was like, finally, it's like when the opportunity came, I was like, oh, it's time to put my money where my mouth is. If I think it can be done
Yeah.
differently, it's up to me to try.
Yeah. Yeah, you
And
can be
so
bolder, but then you have to be really accountable and
yeah, and
but
like, can you create a space where different opinions can be held and people can disagree, but disagree without losing compassion for each other, and like come together around the
absolutely.
work, and like so I think those are the things I'm really sort of interested in, is kind of that whole organizational culture piece as I kind of um, step into take on this role. And it's been a little while, but I'm still fairly new in it.
No, I love it. Okay, so let's talk about the programs and measuring success, right? Can you kind of illustrate that for us in terms of how you see success, how you have the programs, what are your yardsticks? Talk about that a little.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really sort of varies by program. I do think in a lot of ways, what I love about this work and what I love about this role is that we get to see so much of the direct service work happen and grow, and so I think that engagement with somebody, to hear that what you did was meaningful to them in any way, shape, or form, right? Because I do think in so many ways it's like our systems are challenging and they're not set up to support survivors well, right? And there's so many instances in which I've seen that, like, someone is like, I know it didn't work out. Maybe the outcome wasn't what I intended if I was in a criminal legal process, for instance.
Yeah.
But it meant so much to have somebody listen to me, have somebody take me seriously, to have somebody support me and like be there through it. I think like that in some ways is one of the biggest measures of success, is sort of, how does that person feel? What is sort of like that, the emotional shift or change or hope or agency that you gave somebody, right? Beyond like the metrics that we usually track, where it's like, did this person secure housing? Did this
Right.
person,
Yeah.
receive the financial assistance they needed? For employment programming, did they get a job, or did they complete this? For accountability programming, did they complete the course, right? I think
Yeah, yeah.
I'm really interested in that qualitative experience of like, did that change something? Did a light bulb go off for the person? Did they feel supported? Did they feel cared for?
Right. No, I think that's huge, of course, because then
Yeah.
that also kind of helps them move forward
Yeah,
instead
yeah.
of just maybe relying on the system or relying on other things.
And other things, yeah. And I think that's the
And
thing.
that's great. I mean, that's really
Yeah.
helping them to grow.
To grow, and like to grow their agency and sense of self, right? It's like that's oftentimes after experience of gender-based violence, what's been taken away is that sense of agency and that sense of self, right? Or any trauma, that's the thing. And so to the extent that we can like give somebody that back, that hope, that like trust, that all of those things, that I think those intangibles are really, really critical.
That's I love it. So can you talk a little bit about RAP and ERAP in terms of how they work in the schools a little
Yeah.
bit, and how people can, I mean, there's a lot of, most Warrior Women members and attendees, most of them, and my clients are moms. So
Yeah. Oh,
I'm
great.
sure they're all interested. That's what, so that's one thing that I think is really interesting and different in terms of what I know about your office
Yeah.
and those programs. Can you talk a little bit about how they work, how people
Yeah.
volunteer?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah. I mean, you can definitely reach out, and we'll try and connect folks to volunteer. So,
Mhm.
the RAP program, again, it's been around for a while, like 25 years, and was focused on high schools. And then we added an ERAP, which is a middle school focus, in 2018. And so, and we're now working on combining them into just one program across middle schools and high schools.
Okay.
And so they're not in every public school in New York City, but they're in, I think, maybe like 125 middle schools and high schools, maybe a little bit more,
That's a
maybe
lot.
150. And if you're a parent, it's the principal that has to ask for the program, so talk to the principal. But really they work to really integrate relationship abuse prevention into the school environment. So they're assigned to specific schools, and they work with everybody in the school. So they push into classrooms to do workshops about healthy relationships, right? What's healthy, what's unhealthy, what does consent look like? They work with teachers, right? Because sometimes in the school
Yeah,
environment,
that's
it's the
great.
adult that's not giving the appropriate response. They work with parents. They do workshops for parents and teens, right? That are navigating some of these issues around dating and what might be different, and how, like, people butt heads around their own experiences. And also parents often don't feel like they have the education to give them, like a lot of us, I know me growing up, none of this was ever part of anything I was
No, this is all new to me.
all new. And so it's like really trying to like solve for that. Like we teach our young people everything else, but then when it comes to dating, we're like, go ahead, figure it out. Good luck.
Right. See you later.
Right. Be the best approach. It really takes that sort of whole of community response. And for young people that are actually experiencing dating violence or sexual violence, it will provide direct services, right? But it's supposed to be that sort of community level intervention of like, how do we take an entire community and really get them to start thinking about healthy relationships and do it in a way that's pro-social and not so much like, don't do this, don't do that, but like, here's a healthier way to do this. Here's what, what like negotiating hearing no looks like, right?
That's a big one. No,
a big one,
no,
right?
No means no.
Well, yeah, and I think what's interesting too is like
that's interesting.
We're always focused on saying no, but like getting people to hear no is equally hard, right? Like we all get that like sense of rejection, right?
Of course, I mean, of course.
Yeah. So
So I love that. So it happens in the school, and there's education, and then the parents also get educated and trained so they can take it home, right? So
right. So they do workshops, in schools. They do workshops outside of schools, and they will work with sort of community-based. They can always do a one-off. Like some of our providers are really amazing. There's 3 of them, and they all do, have done youth work for a very long time, and they have like young people delivering the workshops, which is also really, it's not me talking to a bunch of young people. So I think if folks are interested, it's like, I think that, they're always willing to come and do like a one-off and kind of talk to any groups and communities about healthy relationships broadly.
I love that. No, I love that. And thank you for answering. That was very, very detailed. And I think a lot of people don't know about it. It's a great resource.
It's
really.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, both sides are great resources. And it seems like, your office is doing quite a bit.
Yeah.
Versus the traditional just domestic violence support. I think it
sounds
like it's really elevated in the last.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I think it's like, we have, again, what I said, like we have so many amazing, passionate people that have done this work for a very long time and like want to see change. And then, and you really realize like, the only way this is going to change, right? It's like the conversation we were having earlier about like violence. Like we live in a culture of violence. We live in a country that is steeped in violence, right? And so like, and the only way that we're going to make a dent in this issue, which is really rooted in misogyny and rooted in patriarchy, is if we do everything everywhere all at once. It has to be all of the above, and it has to be like, how do we shift the culture on these things? And that is really, it's not just a program. It is kind of forever work.
So now, do you see this? Do you liaise at all with other cities and other states? And do you see that they have similar programs, and how is New York City different, would you say?
I mean, I think New York City is different. We're always like New York exceptionalism in every way.
Yeah, right, of course. Yeah.
We do. I mean, we definitely have, partnered with other cities and kind of national work. And even, we host like international delegations all the time too, just to like look at our model and look at our work. But I do think, in New York City, I think one of the things that's we're really fortunate to have, right, is like, it's often like not for lack of resources, it's for lack of vision or coordination, right? Which is very different than some other municipalities, is that we actually have a lot. We also have a lot of additional challenges, especially when it comes to things like, culturally specific communities, people that, speak multiple languages, like all of those things make work, programming here much more complicated to make it like low barrier. But I do think we are well resourced. And I do think overall, like, we live in a city that like doesn't question whether this is an issue or not, right? There are still parts of this country that like are very much like gender violence isn't a thing, domestic violence isn't a big deal, right? And I think
isn't that interesting?
Yeah,
that's interesting. Maybe that goes back to the history of it, and it just kind of
interesting point. It's interesting. So it's like, at least I think that's also really huge, is that we live in a city and that is going to keep saying, we support survivors, and is okay saying that, and is okay acknowledging that, like, even like the police department, right? They want to do better. I don't think you can say that everywhere.
Yeah, thank God for the police department. It must be hard for them to assign what the priorities are around this with everything else going on.
Yeah, and
I think not just in New York. I think about this in other cities as well. How they assign the police to specific like domestic issues or teen violence versus all these other things that are going on. So it seems like they need to be trained, right?
No, we did a lot of training, and I think we work with them very closely on some of their trainings and sort of how they're interact. And I think again, it's they're very, at least here in New York, they've been very open to partnering with advocates, which is really great too, right? It's like, is
Yeah,
to
of
have
course.
people be, alongside somebody that's experienced sexual violence or domestic violence when the reporting is huge, right? And even having that support as you walk in. So yeah, so I do think we're very fortunate in so many ways in terms of our resources and in terms of like the overall acceptance that this is an issue that we should care about.
Yeah, well, we all should care about it because
Yeah.
it affects everything.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, we're doing the event, and so people when they're choosing to donate or get involved with your organization, right? So we're setting up donation pages, just so everybody knows, for NGBV, for Rap and E-Rap. We have a donation page. We're going to be through our silent auction, which thank you so much. All the partners that are coming to me and giving me things like Museum of Broadway tickets and all these things to help you guys. It's just awesome. So, obviously the people that are attending and people that are on today, giving to your office. Can you talk a little bit about where that money goes? I'm assuming it's people resources, or is it event resources?
Yeah, it's people, again, I think for us, again, first of all, we're so appreciative of anybody that wants to support this issue.
Yeah, of course.
By showing up, by learning, by donating,
Yeah,
all of the above. It's amazing. So thank you so much for organizing this and thinking of us. In general, all of our, anything that we would raise would really go to programming, right? And I think we were thinking about rap because of it's Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month in February, right? And so it kind of lines
right.
up with that theme month and with young people. And the way we were going to, thinking about structuring it is like to talk to the providers about how they'd want to use it, right? I think in our dream world, it's like something, the funds we raise could go to something like an art competition for the young people, right? So we go directly to them and give them something to think about, like or do you want to create a social media post about, healthy relationships for other young people? And so I think that's sort of how we're thinking about using some of the funds. And we also do a lot of direct survivor support. So that's the other place where we can always use help, is that like we operate 5 centers, 5 family justice centers, 1 in each borough. They all include things like food pantry for clients, diapers, just like the basic needs you have when you're leaving. And so I think, for us, that's sort of how we're thinking about using the funds that we would raise.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I love it. Okay, so I had a question in terms of familial, like family outreach and services, just in general. So, I love how you talked about this as a bigger issue, and you're taking a very big look at it, and it's not so micro, it's very macro, and it's historical too, which I love. Yeah. So, is there just kind of a general outreach about your services in New York City? Is it more based on incidents or requests?
I mean, we do all kinds of general outreach and engagement with communities. I think part of that is, just very transparently, is capacity. Our office has been understaffed for a while, and so like that's we're doing less and less of that. But but like for instance, like next Wednesday, so January is Human Trafficking Awareness Month and Stalking Awareness Month. Next Wednesday, we're doing a community education event in Brownsville around trafficking, right? And it's slightly in response to, like, we've heard that people are seeing incidents of it more and more there. So it's in response to that, but it's not just about that. It's engaging a much broader level of community. But if folks wanted to do any outreach or education, again, I think we have our outreach email inbox is like on our website, and people can email the inbox and just sort of, say. I think another great resource just for general information is we do have our NYC Hope resource directory and website. It's like nyc.gov/NYC Hope, and it includes all kinds of information for just the general public, right? Including things like, what is gender-based violence? How do I help a friend, right? I think there's so much more we can do in kind of giving people the tools in those informal interactions, because we know that a lot of times a survivor isn't coming to us first. They're going to a friend.
No, and they're also, I just got to say, they're also, because I've been involved in this, not your work, but supporting your work for a while. And what I've seen a lot of, even today I saw it, is in social media, people will tell their story and then ask for people's opinions. Yeah. And then I'm thinking, wow, this poor person is going to take somebody's opinion and take action. It might not be the right action. Yeah. So I'm thinking, ooh, this is a good opportunity to help and provide some right information.
Right. So, exactly. No, totally. Yeah. And I think that there's so much more of that, again, and like, it's on our, one day we'll get to it vision board.
Of course. I mean, it's not easy. There's a lot of resources.
Would love to do more about, like, just getting the general public educated. And I think, again, that's where some of the school stuff and like the stuff that's focused on young people is where, you end up having hope, because like they're learning it now and sort of internalizing it, at like 13, 14, 15, and not trying to retrain themselves at my age, right?
Right.
Which is really important, because I think you still live in a world where like a lot of times, and for all kinds of valid reasons, right? If somebody's sister tells them that they're in an abusive relationship, that person, like, their first reaction is like, how come? How would you let that happen to you?
Of course they
Right?
might. Yeah, right. They might shame them. Right.
Yeah. And then that shuts the survivor down. And it's
Very
still,
good point.
it's understandable, but that's what we want to shift, hopefully, with like education. And, to your point, so if somebody puts a post like that on social media, the response they're getting is empathy and connection to resources.
Empathy would be nice. I lead with empathy. That's how I lead. I think that's so important, because then people will talk. And I love that. So, okay. So question I have for you on when I asked you to be on the podcast, and I said, and I know your office, but we've never worked together. So, when you heard the term Warrior Women in Business, and you kind of saw, well, who is this company? And, we've been supporting you guys, and, what came to mind? What kind of vision did you have?
No, it's funny. It's it's like, my first thought, I was like, well, I'm an Aries, so I love warriors. No.
Okay, I like that. Star signs. I like star signs.
No, I mean, obviously, it's funny because, like, it did come to me, and I was like, I did some research first. I was like, have we worked with this organization before? Do we know them? And it's some digging in again. I think anything that's about like creating communities of support for women, for, queer and transgender non-conforming people, we're always fully supportive of. And I think that goes to this idea of like the culture change that we want to make, right? In a very fundamental way. And then, when I saw you partner with our office for a while, it just seemed like a no-brainer.
Yeah, thank you. No, thank you. I'm really excited because I've seen your programs progress, and I'm really excited about what we're going to do together. I think that I've always been the kind of on my soapbox of like prevention and education and ending cycles, because I see this whole thing as like, it's just like you were talking about cycles. So you have to germinate the root, you know what I'm saying? So I love it. It seems like this is a fresh new approach to it that, that's very necessary.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I think we hope so, right? And I think, I think that's part of it too. Is that when you come to the work about prevention and awareness, is you have to be in it for the long haul, right? I think that takes a certain kind of like energy to sustain, and I think, going back to the idea of leadership, I'm like, that's what I want for everyone that works with us and works for us. Is like, how do we sustain ourselves in this work? Like, which is, I'm always like, I joke sometimes. I'm like, well, my job is to end patriarchy in New York City. So it's really impossible, but it's still good work. Like, what else am I doing with my time?
Really, just give you a little bit of a challenge, right? I love it. I love it. So what are you looking forward to about the event? What's up?
I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing the fashion show, obviously, but also to just engaging a new audience, right? I think that's so important, and that's again why I appreciate you all coming to us and like wanting to partner with us, because so many times, like it's like so much of what we do feels like we're sometimes preaching to the choir, right? Or like folks already know we exist, and so I just think meeting new people that aren't sort of directly involved in this work, but interested and want to support, and kind of creating space for folks to feel a part of it and maybe like take something back to their communities or their workplaces, right? I think we're always looking for those opportunities, and I'm excited about that.
Yeah, no, me too. I love all the partners that are coming together for this event. I mean, we have EPN Fashion Week that has, I got luckily introduced to them. You have no idea. And then I met them by chance. And then I took a look at what they've been doing, running these fashion shows in this gorgeous space. I didn't even know it existed, the Lehman Ballroom.
Yeah, no, me either. I looked at the pictures, it looks beautiful. So
I was like, oh my God, am I in Milan or something? Where is this? So, I'm excited about them. My fashion designer that I'm working with, it's like, I've been looking for the right fashion designer for years. She just came out of I was actually on a podcast in London, and the woman hosting the podcast and interviewing me said, I need to introduce you to this fashion designer, and we just completely connected. So I think to your point, all the stars are aligning for this event on Valentine's Day. I'm really excited for it to support the community. I really, that's why I titled it Self-Love. I think that is the bare bones issue, in my own little opinion, on some of these problems that start around general violence. So, it's really meant to be a very positive event with a positive outcome, and I'm thrilled to partner with you guys. Any other comments and resources that you want to share?
Yeah, I'm also mention really quickly, another resource that we operate is we operate the city's 24-hour hotline, the Hope Hotline. It's 1-800-621-HOPE or 1-800-621-4673. You can call 365 days a year, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and get connected to resources for survivors of domestic and gender-based violence, as well as victims of other crimes. So it does all of the above with a special focus on gender-based violence. And then I mentioned this briefly too, our family justice centers. I think that's another great resource for gender-based violence. They are with one center in each borough, and there are multi-service centers that are co-located with the district attorney's offices.
Okay.
So you don't have to have a criminal case going on, but if you do, you can see your ADA in the same place as you're getting all your other services, right? So the goal there is really to make sure that we make it easier for survivors to access multiple resources by putting them all in one place. And they're walk-in centers, which is also great because,
great.
As we know, a lot of times, like somebody gets the courage to call and then the appointment's 2 weeks out and they lose the courage.
Yeah, that's not.
Yeah, right. And so you can walk into any of them between 9 and 5, and that means that the minute you feel like you need help, you can go talk to somebody immediately. So
I love that.
Share those as well.
Okay, so we're gonna thank you for all of that. So I have one of my Warrior Women team is online somewhere here and taking notes. So she's gonna update the show notes. I think you've given so much great information. I mean, there's so many things, so many facets that you're bringing to the table. And so, I think whether you're a mom, you're a dad, you're whatever, you're in New York City and you want to make a difference, I think that you really should take advantage of the resources. I love the opportunities to support the children in the schools and the parents with the education that you and I never got. So, no, really, I think it's really
huge. It's huge.
I feel like that in itself would make a change, itself. Something new and important.
No, it's definitely, and what's amazing is that program's been around for a while, and we've seen folks that have gone through that program in high school now working for one of the providers, which is just the most beautiful thing, right? You're like, they're like, this light bulb turned on, and then I want to do this work full time as when I was able to. So
there's nothing better than impact, right?
Yeah. Yep.
In your job. Very, very, very good. So with that being said, for everyone, a couple notes I want to share. So first of all the information that Saloni mentioned, sorry that I missed your name a little bit, still getting to know you, that Saloni mentioned will be in the show notes. So all the links, all the phone numbers and all of those things, we'll be sharing all of that throughout January and February for teen violence and for NGBV as well. We'll also be sharing information about, obviously, the event that's coming up, so please follow us. Warrior Women in Business. We're tagging NGBV on everything, so you'll see us working together. Any information, we'd love for you to come and attend the event and meet us there. Get involved with the silent auction. I'm really excited about the silent auction. For me, I love doing a silent auction. It's so fun. But if you're interested in giving or donating, whatever it is, we had yesterday a fitness class, women's fitness class that actually helps women that have come from abusive relationships come in and do fitness classes. Like, if you have any type of business or you're interested in helping out, please contact us at Warrior Women in Business. There's lots of opportunities to be in the silent auction. If you have a product you're looking to share or awareness, just reach out to us. There's probably some place you can play on Valentine's Day with us. So again, I want to thank you so much for being on and giving us, 40 minutes of your time. It's amazing. All the things that you're doing, it's a lot. I know just running a business, it's difficult, but with all that you're doing and also the new leadership at the mayor's office, which we didn't talk about, but I can assume, with not knowing anything, honestly, that transition means a transition in your office and probably other things that you have to take care of during your busy days.
Of course, always. Transitions are always really interesting times for the city. But thank you so much for having me. This was really, really fun, and it was such a good conversation. And I'm looking forward to the event in February.
Me too. I'm absolutely looking forward to it. So we'll be signing off. This is episode 73, Warrior Women in Business. This episode will be edited and shared on all social media channels. Hit warriorwomenbusiness.com to sign up to get recaps of this, as well as opportunities to win tickets to the event. We're doing a ticket giveaway and opportunities, most importantly, to support what the Mayor's Office, NGBV, and the WRAP programs are doing to help New York City. So with that, I'll be signing off. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining.